Hello, and welcome to an episode of Defeating the Odds. I'm your host and companion through this journey, Jessica Singh. Today joining us is a very special lady from Mumbai, Mrs. Pooja Khanna, a mother and ambassador of fighting against all odds, rising above all judgments, and to be very honest to me, making different so beautiful and empowering. Hello Pooja, thank you so much for joining in and welcome to an episode of Defeating the Odds.
Thank you, Jessica. It's a pleasure.
How are you feeling today?
I'm doing great. Actually, I'm doing better because I'm speaking to you because I was so excited and looking forward to this.
So glad.
No, but like I said, right? Like when I discussed it with, when I read the email and when I didn't really know your story. And when I read your story, I was like, wow, now that's defeating the odds.
Thank you. It means so much. You're a true inspiration to me, and I can't tell you how happy I am to be doing this. Like we spoke over the phone as well.
Likewise, thank you.
Pooja, tell us a little about your journey. About your family, where you come from, and a little about yourself. So we know who this powerful woman who's defeating the odds.
I'm Pooja Khanna. I live in Bombay. And I come from a very typical Bombay family. It's nothing. I went to a regular school. Not the fancy ones. So we did have, we literally had free education, standard 5 rupees,
Oh,
6
wow.
6 rupees. Yeah, so it wasn't a private school. It was a regular school.
Okay.
And we did have a special needs section in our school as well, but obviously we weren't exposed to that as much. And and then obviously I got married to my friend. People say they get married to their best friend, but literally I got married to my best friend.
That is so beautiful.
So we knew each other for I think 16, 17 years. Or ever since we were 16 years old. Ever since we were 16 years old, we've known each other. We've been friends since then. We didn't really go out until I think before we got married. I don't think we even went out when we got married. We just got into it. Yeah, because it's literally I was seeing someone, he was seeing someone in between. So we were always good friends. We always kept in touch. He moved to Canada post his education, and then he started studying there and working there. And then before you know it, he was down for his sister's wedding. We met. I had just come out of a relationship, and we hooked up. We had fun, and I didn't really see a perspective over there. I was just this is fun. He's my best friend. How bad could it be?
The place you don't see it, I think it just comes in from there.
Yeah. So, and then after that, it was just he went back home and he's like, let's get married. And I was like, I thought we were fooling around. I didn't think it was heading anywhere. So before, we just, got into it. A year and a half later, we got married, and post that is just, then obviously we had we were into it for 6 years. We were married for 6 years before we had Norah. So we had our ups and downs, but obviously we've always have been very upfront and communicative about things and very open. And then came the Big Bang.
Yes,
Norah.
I have seen her on your Instagram. I've seen her videos, and it's so beautiful. It's so empowering. And I'm gonna dive into that question. And please stop me anywhere you feel you wouldn't want to answer a question. And I'm so sorry if anything brings up any emotions. Please do stop me on the way if anywhere you feel that.
Don't worry, I would like it to be candid, and if there are emotions coming out, it's only because it's real, right? So it's good.
Exactly. So Pooja, I'm not a mother yet, but my mom always tells me that when I was born, before our children are born, we always have a certain image in our mind as to how our children are going to be and how we're going to raise them and the life we're going to build. And what were your expectations? What did you imagine life to be when your child was born?
So I also had a lot of expectations, but it's just that now I feel also because when I think back on what were my expectations, they were just ridiculous. I mean, you expect your child to do things literally doing somersaults out of coming out, or at least I thought, or imagine my life to be with a child who was just like, who would be like a very, very high achieving child, or would be like would also follow perfection in a lot of things.
I think we tend
And
to put those ideas in our head before being born.
And everything that I failed miserably at, I wanted my child to be good at, because of course, if I couldn't do it, I would teach my child to do it. So it was ridiculous expectations. And obviously another thing that I also wanted was I want my child to be healthy and happy. That was what majorly we all pray for, right? So when Norah was born, and our myths were busted about a lot of things, and we had like a major turn of events after she was born.
If you don't mind me asking, when she was born, what was she exactly diagnosed with? Because I know our viewers would want to know.
Yeah, so when Norah was born, she was diagnosed with Down syndrome. That means she has an extra copy of the 21st chromosome in her. We all have 46 chromosomes in our body. She has 47. So she's born with an extra copy on the 21st chromosome, and that's why it's called trisomy 21 or Down syndrome.
Okay.
So, and typically what kids with Down syndrome who are diagnosed with Down syndrome, they have some congenital issues, because they are typically born with low muscle tone. So throughout their body, internally and externally, their muscle tone is very floppy, it's weak. And that is why they are delayed in a lot of their muscle motor memory, like motor skills. And sometimes they're also born with congenital issues because their heart is not as strong to take it, or there are a lot of have these congenital issues. So Norah was diagnosed with Down syndrome the next morning, and as usual we had
the day after she was born.
Yes, the very same morning, because she was born that night, and the next morning, yes, she was diagnosed.
What were the doctor? You feel that moment when the doctors tell you, because here you're going through an emotion of giving birth, and 9 months and everything, and you have your daughter finally in your hands, and what did you feel then?
Well, so Norah was 7 months in my tummy. She didn't extend her stay for
the
whole time. She decided to come out with a big bang anyways. So because Norah was born premature, she was in the NICU, and the next morning we had to go, and we were checking out, how is she doing? Could we go in and see her? And the doctor came in, and we were deciding on the names, like what are we going to name her? And I had already thought of Norah even before she was born. I had decided on the name. And when she was born, when we were asked to go and see her, my husband was walked in before me, and the doctor looked at Norah and he said, I think she may have Down syndrome. And obviously he didn't know how to react, and I'm walking right behind him. So his first instinct was turn around, walk towards me, hold my hand, and tell me that don't worry, everything will be okay. And I was freaking out. What do you mean? What just happened?
You didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, because she's in the NICU, and I know that she's premature. What happened? Have her lungs not matured enough, or is she does she have what does she have? Does she have typhoid? Does she have or pneumonia, jaundice? What does she have? And I have all these crazy things running around my head, which I felt were the worst things, right, at that point of time, because my imagination could only go that far. And then the doctor tells us that he thinks that she has Down syndrome, and in my head I have blanked out. I have become numb, and suddenly having pneumonia or having jaundice or having not having mature lungs enough didn't feel that bad. It just felt like I wish it was that. And because how do you deal with this? And then of course I had no knowledge, and I completely was distraught. It was gut-wrenchingly unimaginable, and it took me a while to get over it.
Awesome.
And yeah, I was completely oblivious to what was happening around me. People were talking, but I didn't know what it meant.
Like you said, people are talking, and we at Defeating the Odds, we keep saying that the situation people are dealing with is sometimes hard enough without judgments and comments, and people just waiting to put labels on the situation that we are going through. So you as a mother with a newborn child are still adjusting to what Down syndrome is and what to, how to figure that out. So what were these judgments, or what were these conversations that were going around you?
So the two people who strongly, I believe, were the great in our this thing is, first, our pediatrician. He was amazing. Like, he was so positive with us. He was just like trying to break it down as to the positives of Down syndrome. He just said, at most she may not become a doctor, right? But that's fine. She could be an artist. She could be this. She could be that. He was just like trying to make sure that we didn't see her as a child who would never be able to achieve something because we had these unexpected limitations or whatever. We had like these crazy things in our head. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, is she going to understand me? Is she going to walk? Is she going to be okay with all of it? What if she gets bullied by her friends, because she's going to be too naive to understand what they're saying? Silly questions that run in your head. Or like, will she be able to talk? Will people be able to understand her? And what is the life going to be like? Is she going to be able to go to school? Will she ever make friends? And he was like, you know what, she's going to do everything. You just need to relax and address it one thing at a time, and let's talk, and don't think that far. So I think, that being said, like, if we had a doctor who was negative about it from the get-go, it would have been. And then there was, then the other doctors who came along were all like negative. But because our main doctor was so positive, I felt that was a total strength. For us, it was a total strength
I would
giving.
completely understand to the viewers that are watching. I remember my mother tells me, she's like, I took you to as many doctors as I could find in where I lived, to Agra and Jaipur and this and that. Everyone's opinion was different. It scared me even more, because who's right, who's wrong.
Yeah. So same here. So we took Norah to so many doctors, right? Because again, in my head, I was like, what if let's just take a second opinion. What if this doctor doesn't know what he's talking about, right? So yeah, we took Norah to a lot of doctors, and the same thing, the doctors. So there was one of the doctors who sent me out and who told Vivek, I was like, he said like, yeah, she does have Down syndrome. I've sent your wife out because I don't think your wife should know. Because, if a mother knows, they may not be able to provide for the child. So don't tell your wife that she has Down syndrome, your daughter has Down syndrome. And my husband was like, Vivek was like, what do you mean? It's like, no, because it's something very, unfortunately, for a mother to bond with a child will be very difficult. So he's like, but this is not going away. This is a part of her. She's going to grow up with this. At some point of time, my wife's going to figure it out that, my child is not like the other kids. I don't want to break it to her then. I mean, you can't be hiding things like that.
When was that point where you let go of all the second opinions and you let go of anyone like this doctor telling you that, oh, you shouldn't know? And when was that moment where you said, this is the situation, but she is my child and I'm going to raise her the way I want to?
Yeah. So I think that happened when since we went to a lot of doctors, and all they did, literally treated her like a specimen. They would call other doctors, like younger doctors around them, and discuss like, what do you see? What are the markers? So like, literally, I know the markers, but you were discussing that in front of me as though she is a piece of meat, like lying there as one of your case studies, and not a human being, and not a child who's just being born. So that is when I decided that I'm not going to take her anywhere, because they're not looking at her as a child, and that's not helping me. By like literally spotting the markers on your child and saying, oh, this is what stands out, and this is what I discovered on my child, that she has from their books of what they've read about in their science for like understanding Down syndrome, like physical markers or what her limitations. And of course, they only told me things that she wouldn't be able to do. They never ever told me that what she could do. As a doctor, they only said that, okay, your daughter won't be able to do this, and you need to keep her away from this, and she may not be able to speak, she may walk late. So basically, everything negative was what was portrayed. All her limitations were put in a big book of their like things that they write, and then they gave it to me. This is your daughter. They defined her in that space.
Yes. And what about Pooja, friends, family, extended people that we know? Was it sympathy? Was it empathy? What was the reaction, or what were the sounds that you could hear around yourself?
So my parents and my in-laws were very supportive, because obviously they were heartbroken as well, because they all obviously thought that, because they also want around differences to understand differences. So they felt like, because we have been now deprived of the life that we should have had, it's obviously them as parents were feeling bad too for us. And but they were very, very supportive. They put a very brave front, and they were just wanting to be there for us. And they were always making sure that they were just being very, very supportive at any point of time for me, mostly because I was an emotional wreck. So they would not get emotional around me, and they were just very strong and brave for me. And all my friends were very supportive. They all of them, most of them were like, maybe not in front of my face if they felt bad, but they were there for me in a positive, supportive way as much as they could be, even though they didn't know much about it. So I think that made a huge difference too, to have a support system that was, I mean, of course, there were people who would be like, oh, I'm so sorry, but don't worry. It's always like, oh, but wo dikhti to nahi hai. Like, she doesn't look that she has. Don't worry, sab theek ho jayega. Don't worry.
Those
Or
words,
like,
chari, ठीक हो जाएगा, इतनी टेंशन मत लो, कुछ नहीं होता, हो जाता है. Blood boils.
Yeah.
Did we ask for?
Oh, and now you all should. Oh, now you all should plan for another baby as soon as possible, क्योंकि like अभी ये ऐसा हो गया है तो कोई बात नहीं, छोड़ दो, दूसरा एक कर लो.
It's
things like that.
It's not a object. It's a child. It's a beautiful, beautiful child.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the aim of everything that we're doing here, is to change. We at Defeating the Odds call it ODD-EOLOGY, not ideology. It's because you're attaching odds to the ideology already.
Yeah, I know. And there are also people who said things like, behind my back. I heard, like, one of my friends told me that, what, I was in bed rest for like throughout my pregnancy. So somebody spoke behind my back, and obviously I got to know through one of my friends that, the only reason she had a child who was differently able is because she had an entire pregnancy because she was on bed, and she never really applied her mind, so that's why she got a child with no brains.
Wow. Kudos and applaud to such people who we are going to defeat the odds. We're going to change that.
Yeah.
So, Pooja, Norah's obviously very young. I'm sure, I think she's 5 or 6 years old.
She is not as 3 years old, yeah.
Oh, 3 years old. And again, please do stop me if this is any which way emotional, but does she realize at a very, very young age that she is different? That life may or may not be a bed of roses going ahead. There are going to be a lot of judgments. There are going to be a lot of questions. There are a lot of, because the world is not as a very kind place. Some people are very kind. Some are absolutely not, like you would know it. At a very young age, does she realize that she is different than what the society's ideology of normal is?
I think right now she's way too young to understand that. Also because I feel like for her, what she does on a day-to-day basis ever since she was a child is normal for her. Like, that is her way of life. So I don't think that she looks at herself as different now, or even if she does that, I don't think that she'll be able to communicate that. Yeah. But but also I think for us being able to let her know that what she is way good enough. It's like, it's what she needs to be, and we are proud of her. And like, every time she does something which we know, a milestone that she said, which she realizes it's been a while, like she's been trying at it. So the older she's getting, she started walking at 2 years old. So I noticed that when she took her first steps, she was old enough to understand that this is what she's doing, and this is something that she's not done before. So, the enthusiasm that came from her was not something that would have come from a 1-year-old who starts walking, because that is so natural that the brain hasn't developed so much at 1 as to what it's developed at 2. So when she did start walking, she really felt that thrill and achievement. And now every time she does something which is Like now she just started climbing stairs. So she realized that this is something that she's been working at, and now finally she's doing it. So it's the thrill, and she enjoys it too, because we celebrate literally everything that she does. So she automatically knows that if I'm doing something that's different, it's time to celebrate. Yeah.
They will always empower her. Like I said to you on the phone, the way you're raising her, that this is absolutely normal, this is good enough, this is more than good enough. It's going to empower her for the rest of her life.
We just keep telling her that what you're doing is what you're supposed to do. It's, there is no that you should have done this, or like, I wish you could have pushed more. No, where you are is exactly where you need to be, and what you're doing is exactly what you need to do.
And Pooja, like going ahead, like right now she's 3. How do you plan to raise her? The way you're doing it is, of course, amazingly beautiful. But as we grow older, like you said, your concerns at a very young age when she was born were that, oh, will her friends bully her? Will she be able to do this? Will she be able to do that? As we progress in age, all those things become a reality. The situations come in front of us. Again, like I said, the world is not a very kind place. There is going to be one odd person out of 100 who might make fun, because those kind of people do exist. So how do you want to instill, and how do you plan to instill this I am good enough for myself and for the people who love me attitude? Because every child needs it, and differently abled and differently beautiful children need it even more.
So I think firstly, as she's growing, so at every age, as she is growing, I need to grow with her, because I need to change my way of looking at things. Since I'm a first-time mom and I have no reference to what a child is at every age, in a way it works for me, because my reference is only Norah. And even though I may compare her to other kids, which is very natural, and seeing them do things at every age, doing things differently or more easily, or more like, as they grow old, it's just more like, why don't you just understand it, because you're old enough to understand it. And maybe she won't understand it because she's that old, but mentally maybe she's not ready to be to understand a few things. So at every time, I feel I will also have to learn to adapt, and I will also have my struggles at every age. It's not just when she was born, but at every age I will have some kind of struggle, as she will, to be able to help her. It's only because I would want to help her and understand how to help her. So it won't be, I think it's going to be equally challenging for me at every situation when she's faced. But at the same point of time, I don't want to think that far, because I don't want to already think that it's going to be challenging. Maybe it's not going to be challenging. Because
we rise above challenges, and to be very honest, again, the way you're raising her, she will rise above every challenge. And when you rise above challenges, I think I believe in God a lot. I always say this, that God just gives you this sense of emotion and power, where you're empathetic to other people's situations, because you have been through something that the world cannot say that you have, that they have been through. So it gives you a sense of emotion towards your situation, to other situations. And I think it's a power where it's a blessing in disguise, some way or the other. I mean, that's the way I think. I mean,
yes, absolutely.
It just
is, because your life is so much more wholesome and so much more full because of the experiences that you've gone through. Your parents have had a completely amazing life with you. Then I don't even think that they would want to remember, or even they remember what life was without you.
Yeah, today if I ask them, oh, do you remember the time when we went to like those millions of doctors, they would not remember it.
Yeah, they wouldn't. I mean, it wouldn't play that important a role as to the achievements, right? In spite of the struggles being a lot, every achievement is so much more, I think, wholesome.
I know,
and so much more precious. So then all those other things don't really matter. And even if she gets bullied, I feel like, so what? All kids get bullied. If she's going to get bullied, I just like, or as long as she's not a bully, you get over it. And if, as long as she's able to stand up for herself and learn through all of that, I think it's fine.
admirable. The way you are like, I will face a situation, she will face a situation, and we're just going to rise above it because the situation is as it is. But you know that.
So, like you said, so I guess we just have to make our effort to be kind towards people, and I feel like what you put out there, when your vibes are good, you immediately get that back. So at least I believe that a lot.
Truly. Pooja, I think my last question to you, and very, very important to you, will be, there are so many people out there who are burdened by their weight of odds. For them, it could be, again, like I said, odds could mean different things to different people. For them, it could be life circumstances that they cannot rise above, or being different, or having labels or choices that are not accepted by society. What would be your advice, or would be your message to them?
I think when you start looking at your limitations, that's where you literally are putting the end of you. If I have to describe somebody by just talking about their limitations, it's literally like me just saying, that's it, the person is not good enough, the person is not going to rise. So I feel that when we look at ourselves and we limit ourselves to just seeing what we can't do, we will never be able to even try anything else beyond that. But when we're just like, you know what, when we come up from a different situation, like we're just like, okay, I've never done this before, but let's try. And if I do it and I fail, I'll be like, okay, I did it, I tried, let's try again. And if I put my mind to it, at some point of time, I am going to come close enough as to what I wanted, or maybe even achieve it, right? So the point is, it's not giving up. It's just going on trying. You fall, you get up, you do it again. You fall, you get up, you do it again. Because that applies to everything in life. Once you start doing that in one situation, you will realize that you get better at every other thing that you intend to put your head to. And there is no way that you won't succeed.
And trying and defeating all sorts of obstacles or odd, I think, goes on auto mode. It just applies to every part of your life after a point, not just that one thing. Because it just becomes a part of who you are.
Because that is literally, you change the way you think. Your perception has changed from limiting yourself that I can't do, to something else that's so much more bigger and so much more like, there is nothing that you can't do, because if there is something that you put your mind to, you will figure a way out. Maybe it is not a straight road, maybe it is a curved road, but you're going to figure it out.
Truly. And that is the journey of life, and that is the journey of living with odds and defeating them. Thank you so much, Pooja, and so admirable, and thank you for paving the path for so many others who would have had these thoughts in their mind, and I'm sure they'll be so inspired to just live life the way they want to.
That's how it's coming out. My intention was just to get help for myself and to put everything that's out there, and then I landed up. And also when I did get the help, I wanted to pay it forward. So yeah.
Thank you so much, and it's been so lovely, talking to you and getting to know about your beautiful journey. And lots and lots of love to Norah, and we can't wait to see her grow up into a beautiful girl.
When I looked at you, I'm like, oh my God, if Norah is something like that, this fataka is worth it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.